Hello everyone. Today we will see the definition for combinational and sequential circuits. First of all, the combinational circuits. The circuits whose output depends upon only the present input. Such circuits are called as combinational circuits. So it is very important. The basic circuit in digital circuits, in the field of digital circuits, that is, for the any circuit, if the output of that particular circuit, logic circuit, depends upon only the inputs, such circuits are called as combinational circuits. For example, let me consider an adder. So if this is the adder circuit, so if I want to add 1 and 0, if I add 1 and 0, 1 and 0 are the input to this adder. So the adder will give the two output, that is sum and carry. So what is the sum of 1 and 0? 1 plus 0 is 1, carry is 0. So just think here, if I want to get 1, the adder is making use of only these two input signal. It is using only 1 and 0. So that means the output of this adder depending on only the present inputs. That is present inputs here it is 1 and 0. It doesn't require any other inputs other than the input at that instant of time. So the carry is 0. So similarly, if I want to add 1 and 1, so 1 plus 1 is 0, carry is 1. That means if I want to get output 0, this output depends upon only 1 and 1. So it is not dependent. It is not depending on the any other output. That means it is not dependent on the previous inputs or previous output. The present output depends upon only the present input. So such circuits we call it as combinational circuits. Okay. Next, coming to sequential circuits. Sequential circuit Sequential circuits are the circuits whose output depend upon the present input as well as the previous output. So I'll just show it. Yes, you can see the sequential circuit here. So see the output of the sequential circuit. So here it is memory. See the output of the sequential circuit depend upon the present input as well as the previous output. See, this is the output. So this output depends upon the input values as well as the previous output. So if it is only this much, this is nothing but your combinational circuit. See, this is a combinational circuit. So the sequential circuit consists of combinational circuit along with memory element. So what is sequential circuit? Sequential circuit is a circuit whose output depends upon present input as well as the previous output. Since the output depends upon previous output, I require some memory element to store those previous output. So unless and until I store the previous output, the sequential circuit cannot give the output. So in order to store the previous output, I will be using some memory element. So memory element which we are using is nothing but the flip-flop. So flip-flops are the basic memory elements which are used in sequential circuits. So these flip-flops are used to store the digital. It can store either 0 or 1. So flip-flops are nothing but the storage elements or memory elements which are used in the sequential circuits. So let me tell the example of sequential circuit. So for example, example of sequential circuit is counter. So if I take a counter circuit which will count from 0 to 7. So it will be counting 0, then it will count 1, then it will count 2, then it will count 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So initially it is counting 0. If it is counting 1, then what does that circuit has to do? Circuit should add 0 to 1. Then it will be counting 1. So next, if it wants to count 2, it will be counting 1 plus 1. If it want to count 3, then it will do 2 plus 1. If it has to count 4, then it will add 3 plus 1. So likewise, see here, this is the present output, I mean the previous output. So if I want a next output is dependent on the previous output. Previous output, one is added to the previous output, then only you will get the next output. So if I want next output, counter output as 2, next it will add the previous output. So this 1 is the previous output, then it is adding 1 to 1. So if I want 3, this is the next output. If I want 3, it is adding the previous output with 1. So that means counter is a sequential circuit whose output is dependent on the previous output. So if the counter should count 1, this 0 should be stored somewhere else. So that 0, that element, that 0 is stored in flip-flop. Okay, so if I want to count 2, 1 should be stored somewhere else. So where it will be stored? It will be stored in the memory element. So which is the memory element we are using? We are using flip-flop as memory element. So flip-flop is the basic building, that means very much basic building blocks in your sequential circuits. So once again, sequential circuit is nothing but combinational circuits along with memory element. So such circuits we call it as sequential circuits. I hope you understand the concepts. Thank you.